The 1986 Formula One season remains one of the most unforgettable and gripping campaigns in the history of the sport. And when we look back at it with all the insight we now have, it's clear why it stands out. It wasn't just about the cars, the drivers, or even the victories. It was the unpredictable theater of championship racing that unfolded across 16 fiercely contested rounds. Every twist, every political jab, every mechanical gamble, and every heartbreak led us to Adelaide, where the drama exploded in a climax no Hollywood screenwriter could have conjured better. This was the year when Alain Prost, the reigning world champion, continued his journey with McLaren Tag. His calculated approach and masterful consistency had brought him success in 1985, and he was now joined by another world champion in Keke Rosberg, who had stepped in following Niki Lauda's retirement. Over at Lotus, Ayrton Senna remained, still driving with raw precision and brilliant aggression. Meanwhile, one of the most talked about moves came from Nelson Piquet, who finally departed Brabham and landed a seat at Williams Honda, stepping into Rosberg's shoes. That, however, meant sharing the garage with Nigel Mansell, an unfiltered Brit with a burning desire to prove he could be world champion. Piquet believed he had walked into the number one role at Williams. He assumed the team would revolve around him. But Mansell, fresh off his first career win the previous year and now increasingly confident, wasn't playing second fiddle to anyone. He came in 1986 laser-focused, more prepared than ever, and determined to seize his moment. In the end, 4 of these 5 exceptional drivers would leave the season disappointed, with just one man holding the crown. Things kicked off in Brazil, where Piquet immediately made a statement by winning on home soil. He was back in a top-tier car and wasted no time proving it. But this wasn't going to be a one-man show. Throughout the season, Piquet would win in Germany, Hungary, and Italy, but Mansell was consistently faster over one lap and had a better run of wins, taking victories in Belgium, Canada, France, Britain, and Portugal. He would end the year as the driver with the most wins, something no one predicted at the start of the year. The Williams Honda package was the class of the field in terms of raw power. The Honda engines delivered a clear performance edge over the McLaren TGS and the Lotus Renaults, but Senna still managed to grab pole position in half the races. That was a testament to his unmatched qualifying ability. Yet pole positions didn't translate into wins. Senna only claimed 2 victories, Spain and Detroit. The tires, reliability issues, and race pace often caught up with him. Still, he remained a potent threat, and his pole count spoke volumes about his single-lap mastery. Elsewhere, a young Gerhard Berger took an opportunistic victory for Benetton BMW in Mexico, benefiting from superior tire, where when his Pirellis outlasted the Goodyears. That race also marked a turning point in the title battle. Mansell arrived in Mexico with momentum, but fate had other plans. He was unwell after dinner with a group that included legendary commentator Murray Walker, and there were whispers that he may have started the race in 3rd gear by mistake. Mansell denied it, explaining that he couldn't engage any gear properly at the start and had to settle for 2nd. The result? He dropped to 18th by the end of the opening lap, but he clawed his way back to finish 5th. That should have been a heroic damage-limiting drive, but the points system at the time only counted a driver's best 11 results. His 2 points didn't help his championship tally. They simply vanished from the official standings. That's how brutal the scoring rules could be. So it came down to a 3-way fight going into the final round in Adelaide. Mansell led with 70 points, Prost followed with 64, and Piquet sat on 63. The number in parentheses, often seen in statistics, represented total points scored, but the only thing that mattered was the top 11 results. This meant that Prost still had a fighting chance. Piquet had a mathematical hope, and Mansell had it all to lose. Adelaide wasn't just a race. It was a showdown. Mansell arrived in Australia furious and determined. He had every reason to believe this was his title to lose. And in qualifying, he made it clear he wasn't planning to. He clocked a stunning lap that put him on pole, outpacing Piquet by 3/10. Senna and Prost made up the 2nd row, with Rosberg starting further back in 6th. The grid had an unfamiliar feel behind the usual contenders, with the likes of René Arnoux, Philippe Alliot, Michel Alboreto, and Philippe Streif all featuring in the top 10. The start was tense but clean. Mansell got off the line well, but chose caution in the first chicane. He let both Senna and Piquet through, perhaps remembering his crash with Senna at the same spot the year before. It was early in the race, and there was no need to be heroic just yet. But Rosberg, in his final race, wasn't holding back. He surged past Mansell and joined the fight up front. Piquet took the lead from Senna before the end of the opening lap, and Prost slotted into fifth. Rosberg had spent the year frustrated with McLaren's setup. The car was engineered to suit Prost's understeering preference, and it never quite fit Kjaerke's driving style. But in this final race, he was back on song. He overtook Piquet on lap 7 and began to build a gap. Meanwhile, Mansell passed Senna for third, and Prost followed by getting ahead of both. The race was settling into a rhythm, but there was tension everywhere. By lap 23, Piquet made an uncharacteristic error and spun, giving Mansell third place back. Then, on lap 32, Prost touched Berger's car and sensed a puncture. Not wanting to risk anything, he pitted for fresh tires. This seemed to be a disadvantage at first, but it ultimately changed everything. Goodyear had been unsure whether a full race distance was possible without a tire stop. When Prost came in, they assumed tire degradation wasn't too severe and told teams a no-stop strategy was viable. That was a fatal miscalculation. Rosberg looked in total control until lap 62 when disaster struck. At first, he thought his engine had exploded. The noise was that loud. But in truth, it was a tire failure. The right rear delaminated at high speed. By the time he brought the car to a halt and climbed out, it became clear just how close he had come to a major accident. Rosberg's retirement elevated the Williams pair to the top of the order. Mansell was now third, the exact position he needed to clinch the championship. The team, though, was worried. They saw visual signs that the tires were deteriorating. Mansell radioed in, asking to pit. The team debated. The title was so close they could taste it. Every second counted. The pit wall hesitated. And then came a moment no fan will ever forget. Down the main straight, with Mansell overtaking Elias Legier, his left rear tire exploded at 180 miles per hour. The car snapped violently. Debris scattered. Elias somehow avoided hitting him. Mansell managed to bring the crippled Williams under control, zigzagging down the escape road. He didn't hit anything, but the car came to a stop, lifeless. And with it, his championship hopes were over. Mansell later said he was just grateful to be alive, but his face told the real story. The heartbreak was immense. I'd been a mere 44 miles from clinching the title, he reflected. Now I was gone. I was destroyed. Goodyear, in a testament to their media team, avoided heavy criticism. The failure was eventually traced to a rare manufacturing defect, but the damage was done. Mansell was out. The championship balance had shifted again. Now Piquet was leading, and Williams had a choice to make. With Mansell's blowout fresh in their minds, they weren't taking any chances. Piquet was called in for a precautionary tire change. He lost the lead and, in effect, the championship. Ironically, his tires were still in good shape. There was no need to pit. But hindsight is a luxury no one had in the moment. All of a sudden, Alain Prost, who had been largely dismissed as an outsider, found himself leading. But his troubles weren't over. The car's computer was warning that he was 5 liters short on fuel. Prost, knowing full well how painful it is to lose a title in the final laps, drove the last 15 laps in fear. He didn't back off, he couldn't. Piquet was closing in with fresh tires. Prost just had to believe the computer was wrong. He made it to the finish line. He won the race. And by just 2 points, he won the World Championship. 72 points to Mansell's 70 and Piquet's 69. Despite winning fewer races than his rivals, despite never having the fastest car, Prost had played the long game to perfection. He had become the first driver since Jack Brabham in 1959 and 1960 to win back-to-back World Championships. In a year dominated by powerful Honda engines, by internal politics, and by the relentless pace of his competitors, Prost's calm, strategic approach had paid off. And in the process, the 1986 season had delivered one of the most dramatic, heart-stopping conclusions in the history of Formula One. It's a reminder of how much more there is to Formula One than just lap times and trophies. There's strategy, teamwork, unpredictability, and the human side of sport. We saw the heartbreak of a nearly man in Mansell. We saw the gamble that didn't pay off for Piquet. We saw the farewell brilliance of Kjaer Rosberg. And we saw a champion quietly, smartly, and patiently rise to the top once again in Prost. If you've ever wondered why people say the 80s were the golden age of Formula One, you only need to watch that 1986 season finale. And not just for the crashes, or the title permutations, or the fuel calculations, but because it revealed everything that makes Formula One the most compelling motorsport on Earth. Hello, McLaren faithful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss any McLaren and F1 updates with relaxing ASMR elements. Your support helps this incredible community grow stronger every day, and it's a small effort that goes a long way. Even if you can't contribute in other ways, it's completely free to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to keep the conversation going and share our passion for McLaren and F1. Your support helps keep the community thriving. Thank you for being part of McLaren.